Hey, so today I decided that I'm going to film my story, like my life story basically, but from a health and fitness lens, and then I guess really more specifically, like my transformation over the past 2.5 years. I guess I'll focus more in depth on that, but kind of starting from the beginning. So it's going to be really personal, but I guess the reason I'm doing this is just so people can get to know me, one, and two, just because while my story is unique to me, I think that some of the things that I've gone through can resonate a lot with other people, and I just kind of want to put it out there that, you can change, you can transform your life, you can really do anything that you want, if you're willing to work for it. So yeah. So, I guess I'll just start, from my childhood. So I was overweight as a kid. I guess it started kind of around when I was like 5 or 6. I really started kind of looking a little bigger than average. And by like 2nd, 3rd grade, I was definitely overweight for my age and height and whatnot. But I was active. I was involved in all sorts of sports growing up. I was really involved in swimming. I did soccer, gymnastics, a bunch of stuff. I was a very picky eater. And so my mom did the best she could, but I just had really poor eating habits, and I ate portions that were just out of control. Just really out of control. Like I remember eating an adult-sized meal from McDonald's when I was in 2nd grade. Like that's not okay for a child to be having that much food in like in one sitting. But so yeah, I was an overweight kid, and I was teased. I was bullied to a degree, but it wasn't like a group effort. It was kind of individual things here and there. And then, yeah, so I just kind of continued to be a little bit bigger as I got older. I wasn't obese. I don't think I ever really crossed. I was kind of all close. Towards like the end of high school, I got close to like the line between being overweight and obese, but I wasn't an obese child, but I was overweight. And then middle school, I continued to put more weight on. I continued to eat a lot, especially as I got older in middle school and I started like going home after school by myself. I would just eat a lot of food. And then I started getting involved in dance in middle school. I started dancing a lot. So physically I was active, but nutritionally I just consumed way too much food. And then that continued through high school. And I guess there were a couple times I tried to lose weight. I mentioned in my other video in 8th grade, I would try to just eat clementines at lunch, but then I'd binge later on, so that wasn't very successful. I remember there was one time in 10th grade that I tried to go on a diet and eat healthy. And like thinking back, like I did make healthier choices during that time, and that was great, but I was still eating like probably, the majority of it was carbohydrates. I was probably still eating too much, although like remembering the time period, I was dancing a lot then too, so I didn't eat a lot, but just it wasn't consistent, so I didn't see any sort of results or progress. And I was very comfortable with my body in high school. I really was. I don't know if I got used to it. I always thought that I was just bigger, and I was okay with it. I mean, I don't want to say I was okay with it, but I accepted it, and I didn't really let it affect my life negatively. So I just kind of rolled with the punches. My weight never really held me back. I still danced. I still wore costumes that were a little revealing at times. I was a little self-conscious when it came to certain types of clothes. I didn't really wear shorts, and I was very picky with skirts because I was very self-conscious about my legs, but I was comfortable with my body, for the most part. And then my senior year of high school, I went through a really rough time. I was diagnosed with depression, and right around that time, I made myself throw up for the first time. Had nothing to do with wanting to lose weight, wanting to change how I look or anything. It was just, psychologically, I think it was just me. It was a way for me to try to get rid of the negative energy that I had within me. And that's how it manifested itself. So it really developed into like full-blown bulimia, where I would binge and eat a ton of food. I remember I would go and eat an entire carton of ice cream, or I'd go to McDonald's and get tons of food and binge and eat it quickly and then make myself throw up. And then gradually it just became like, oh, I ate dinner, now I'm going to go throw it up. And I didn't throw up everything, but especially when I ate more than usual and like later on in the day, I would just throw it up. And then, so that continued through the end of my senior year. And then I went to college in the fall, and I had an unlimited meal plan in the dining hall. So I would go and I'd eat and I'd go throw up, and then I'd eat more food and then I'd go throw up. And it was just this awful cycle. Then I'd do the same thing in my dorm room. And it was just a really it's a hard thing to deal with. There's a lot of secrecy that comes with it, even though a lot of people knew. My boyfriend knew, his family knew. I'm not 100% sure if my mom really knew. My roommates knew, friends knew, and I think I don't think it was like none of those people cared that I was doing this. I think some people definitely expressed their concern, but there was no cause for alarm and I think it's really because I was overweight. So it wasn't like I was about to drop dead from being malnourished, but yeah, I could have, my electrolytes were completely imbalanced. There were times my esophagus would just be sore just from throwing up, and it took its toll, and I was often dehydrated. I drank a ton of water. That's why when I started my fitness journey, drinking a ton of water was never an issue for me because I was so used to it. But that was the eating habits that I kept up with in college. In terms of physical activity, I tried out for my school's dance team my freshman year. I wanted to keep dancing, and I really had reservations that I would not make the team because of my size. Because I guess it's probably very few and far between on a collegiate level, but I think certain schools probably do take your appearance into account. My school, luckily didn't. But I made the team. So I danced through college, basketball games, practices through the week. So I stayed pretty active. And then my sophomore year, they added in, we started doing kind of conditioning before practice too. So I was active, and there were little periods of time when I would go to the gym maybe a couple times a week. But I would typically do the elliptical for 20 minutes, and then I would just randomly do arbitrary machines here and there. Because at the time I believed in spot reduction. So, if I do leg presses, it's going to get rid of my leg fat. No, Kate, not at all how it works, sweetie. But yes, so then my senior year of college, so the fall of 2012, I took an herbalism class. It was called Plant-Based Healing Medicine, and it was about natural medicine and herbalism. And our professor, who worked as an herbalist, was telling us, we learned that no matter what ailment somebody came to her with, whether it was liver or adrenal fatigue or kidney issues, no matter what, the first thing she would do is put them on a natural whole foods diet, primarily plant-based, because that was her kind of method. And it often cleared up a lot of their ailments and a lot of the things that were wrong with them, along with the proper herbs to supplement that. People had great success. And something really clicked for me. at that point where I was like, okay, Kate, you need to fix your eating habits because you can't go on living like this. You can't go on living off of junk food and binging and purging every single day. It might taste good at the time, but you're killing yourself in the long run. So around November 2012, I really got it in my mind that new year, I'm going to commit to trying to live a healthier lifestyle. I need to overcome this eating disorder and take care of that, but I also need to change my eating habits and become healthier, and along with that, lose weight. So that kind of became my goal, and I think I would not recommend to somebody else to try to undertake all of those things together at once. I think especially the eating disorder and the weight loss, in my situation, it made sense just because I was overweight. I had always been overweight, but I think in many circumstances it wouldn't be best to go about those simultaneously. Just my opinion. So, yep, January came around, and I had been on Tumblr for a couple years, so I knew like weight loss and health blurs and fit blurs were out there, so I made one. Luckily, the blogs that I found right away were ones that did promote, it was the clean eating mentality, but it did promote healthy weight loss. So, take your BMR, figure that out, multiply it by your activity level, and then create a deficit from there to lose weight. So I got into that, and so I decided to count calories and use my FitnessPal to track everything. And I went like balls to the walls in the beginning, and I was like, well, if 2 pounds a week is healthy, then I should just do that because I have a lot of weight to lose. So at the beginning I was eating like 1,450 calories a day, 1,450 calories a day. And I didn't start like working out hardcore right away at all. I'd walk to class every day, which was like a little less than a mile away each way. And I started just doing workouts in my room. I did the 30-day shred for like 5 days, but I would do things like that in my room at first. And I just was very diligent about tracking everything in my FitnessPal and hitting my calories. And that was just, I probably should have been eating more from the get-go. And I lost weight pretty quickly. And for me, in terms of dealing with the bulimia portion of it, I think for me, counting calories helped stop that behavior because I was like, listen, this is what I need to eat to lose weight. Binging is going to mess that up. Purging is going to mess that up. Don't do it. And that kind of it helped stop that behavior. But there were still times, especially in the beginning of my journey, if I went out to dinner or had a cheat or whatnot, where I would still purge it up because I still had that kind of like, I still had an unhealthy mentality about it. So over the course of like a couple months, I started becoming more active. I took up running, joined a gym, didn't really want to go to my school gym, continued doing things in my room. I gradually did increase my intake. I think for the bulk of my weight loss, I was probably eating between 1,500 and 1,600 calories a day. And then by July, exactly 6 months later, I reached my goal weight, which was 130 pounds. When I started, I was 177 pounds. And I was kind of in the 170, I should have mentioned this earlier. I was kind of in the 170s for almost all of high school and college. There were little fluctuations here and there, but that was kind of just where my set point was, I guess you could say. But yeah, so when I started my journey in January of 2013, I was 177, and then July, I was 130. But I lost weight very quickly. That's a pretty short amount of time to lose that much weight, especially when that's all the weight that you really have to lose. And I lost a good chunk of muscle along with fat. So I was the weight that I wanted to be, but I didn't have anywhere near the physique I wanted to be. I hate this phrase, but it's just the best way to put it. I was skinny fat, I was skinny, but I still had a decently high body fat percentage. And so I started eating a little bit more because I knew that I did have to increase my intake, try to get up to a maintenance level. I kept running a lot. I just thought the more I ran, I'd get leaner and leaner. And then it really was at that point where the clean eating mentality kicked in. And I was like, the cleaner I eat, the more fat I'll lose. I'll just keep losing fat because it's clean and it'll magically burn all my fat. Because while I was losing weight, I didn't do like a complete 180 with my eating habits. I started to incorporate healthier, more natural foods, healthier things, whole grains, tried to step back away from a lot of the processed foods that I relied on, tried to get more fruits and veggies. I never used to eat vegetables ever. Like, I did the Disney college program for 5 months and I didn't eat a vegetable once at all the entire time. You can ask my roommate. She will confirm. Like, that's kind of gross. But, so it was a gradual change to my eating habits. But by the summer, by the time I had reached my goal weight and I realized I didn't have the body I wanted, I was like, I need to eat cleaner. Gotta eat clean. So I really started, and I'm still a picky eater, so I really started to restrict what I was eating. And at the same time, that was right like around September or so. That's when I did start getting into weightlifting, because I was like, that'll really help me out and tone up, you know, that tone. But, so I worked out at Planet Fitness, so I used their equipment. They have like a pretty good variety of equipment, machines. I use the Smith machine, free weights, dumbbells, easy bars, things like that. And I continued that, really started getting more into that September, October of 2013. And then the end of October 2013, I hurt my knee on a trail run. So I really stopped running after that, and I kind of just got more into the weightlifting. And I would do the elliptical machine for cardio. And I guess I wasn't really weighing myself much at this time. I did gain a little bit of weight, I guess a little bit of noob gains. And I eventually stopped counting calories at this time and began eating more intuitively. But at the same time, I was very restrictive with what I was eating. I was eating probably, at this point, over 2,000 calories a day, but just limiting what I could and could not eat. I would just scrutinize. I'd go in the grocery store, and if I wanted something, I would look at the ingredient list, and I'd scrutinize it so hardcore, and couldn't get, you know, frozen hash browns because there was dextrose in it, or something like things like that. And it just, so that was kind of, you know, even though I had addressed the physical elements of my eating disorder with the binging and the purging, and I got to a point where, like, September of 2013 was the last time I ever purged, but psychologically things were still there, and there were still issues to address. So I did become, it was weird, but I was being healthy. I was eating enough, you know. It was just not, it wasn't the most optimal for my mental health, I guess, is the best way to put it. And then, so 2014, New Year rolls along, kept up with, you know, weightlifting, eating clean, and then I really kind of started doing the elliptical more because I was reading Game of Thrones and I was really into it. So I did kind of start to lean out a bit towards the end of spring. And then in the spring of 2014, I was assaulted by one of my classmates at a school event. And that was really a really hard thing to just kind of accept and deal with. And I went through a really hard period after that. My appetite just kind of disappeared. I still ate, but it wasn't enough at all. And at the same time, the gym became my outlet for, like, stress relief and just kind of trying to feel better. So I was still working out really hard, and I just, like, by the middle of summer around my birthday, I was very just thin and frail almost. It was like all the gains I had were basically gone. I was just very skinny. And I remember my dance team coach commented on a picture of me and was like, stop losing weight, like you're too thin. And I was like, I'm not even losing weight. Like I literally I just hadn't lost weight, but I had gotten very thin. I don't know. But eventually, emotionally, things improved. Because I started, and I really got more serious into lifting last summer. I started going to a different gym so I started deadlifting, and I started squatting with like the barbell and not the Smith machine, bench pressing. So my strength started to improve, and I think that did really help me a lot emotionally. But because of that, eventually my appetite did pick up, and it got to a point I just started eating a lot more. Really just trying to fuel my body right. I started stepping away from the clean eating, restrictive. I still, I didn't go overboard, but I was a little bit more flexible. But I was still very controlled about it, I guess you could say. And I, put on a few pounds, but you couldn't even tell. I looked better to me. I looked healthier. And then I was still fairly lean. I remember through Halloween I wanted to keep lean because that's my priority. And then November I started bulking. Yep, so I just started eating more. But I was careful not to go overboard. But I was eating quite a bit. I was probably eating between like 2,500 and 3,000 calories. I'd say would be a good estimate for like an average day. Lifting, I cut cardio eventually completely. January I didn't do any cardio. And then the end of January is when I stopped bulking. Starting to feel a little bit fluffy. I weighed myself at the end of September of 2014. I was 137. And then I didn't weigh myself until March of this year when I started following If It Fits Your Macros, and I was 142. So I'm estimating that I was probably in like the mid to high 140s at the end of January. And then I tried to start cutting, but while eating intuitively. And I reintroduced cardio back into my routine a few times a week. And I just kind of started watching portions more, watching what I ate more. And I think I dropped, some extra water that I had been retaining. And I think I probably dropped a couple of pounds, but I just wasn't seeing results in the amount of time that, like, I had given it. So by the end of March, I was like, okay, I'm not getting where I want to be, so maybe it's time to try something new. So I decided to do If It Fits Your Macros. And I had, like, a pretty good idea of what my like energy expenditure was, because over the years I had kind of been aware of what a TDEE calculator calculates and what your BMR is, and I wore a heart rate monitor working out for over a year, so I knew what my workouts were burning and certain days that were doing certain things. So I had a good estimate of where I was at, so that helped me because I decided to calculate my own macros because I'm cheap. So that helped me with figuring that out. And I created a small deficit from what I tracked I had a couple days eating like normal, and I tracked that, and it was roughly what my maintenance calories were, which makes sense. That probably was roughly where I was eating, around like 2,500 calories. So I kind of based my deficit off of that, and started tracking macros, and I've been really surprised and excited about like the success I've had. I'm eating still over 2,000 calories a day. I'm currently at 240 carb, 58 fat, and 140 protein, and just steadily, slowly dropping fat and weight. So yeah, I was 129 this morning, I think. So that's been successful. Still lifting. Somebody asked me on Tumblr, like, if I plan on stopping cutting soon. Yeah, I'm obviously not going to keep cutting forever. I know I'm curious to know what my body fat percentage is, to be honest, But I am getting pretty lean. Like, I have oblique veins now. That's a thing. So I know I'm getting pretty lean. Even my mom, she's like, whoa, muscle girl. And that's what I don't think people realize. Like, she thought my muscles were getting bigger. I'm like, no, Mom, quite the opposite. I haven't gained an ounce of muscle since January. Or, you know, we don't know how much I was actually eating in February. But I've been losing fat. And as such, the muscle that I did gain when I was bulking is now more visible. You just couldn't really see the definition before because there was a little bit of fat covering up too. But now that that's gone, your body is all muscle. I'm just kidding. But then I plan on reverse dieting, kind of just maintaining while building my metabolism, and then I plan on bulking again through like the later fall, winter. Might do more of a hardcore bulk. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I kind of enjoy, I'm really enjoying doing If It Fits Your Macros. I just think it's almost fun because I still eat anything that I want. And I think that's been really helpful for me with getting over that restrictive kind of mindset, that now it's just, it doesn't matter. The bulk of what I eat is still very similar to what I was eating before. A lot of clean, you know, bro foods. But, you know, I don't freak out having a cookie or ice cream. And, oh my God, if I have a little bit of ice cream every day, that's not going to hurt me. Or, because I would put these weird limitations. Like, I can only have a donut once every 2 weeks or something like that. And that's all gone now. And I think that's been very helpful mentally. But at the same time, you know, I weigh everything that I eat and I track it. And that is still kind of, that's very controlling. But I think for the time being, I like it. I enjoy it. It's not stressful to me. It's not burdensome. It's not interfering with my life in a negative way. If I want to go out, I'm pretty flexible about it. You know, I do what I can. I'm not too strict. So I think for right now, that's kind of where I'm at. And we'll see where the future takes me. But, yeah. So I hope this was informative. If you watched this whole thing, kudos. So that's my life.